Regis College Honors Program. I see some of the usual suspects and repeat offenders here, but this is sort of the end of our third week of the senior honors presentations this year. We'll have 24 total by the end of next week, and the largest group of seniors ever to present their thesis work at Regis University. So we're doubly proud. We've got two amazing sort of presentations this afternoon, and those of you who know Jeff well realize that I had to start 3 minutes late just to see how he would cope with that. In order to introduce Jeff and the wonderful project that he has, I have Dr. Mario Franco from our biology department. Thesis advisor.
Well, let me introduce Jeff a little bit. It's always very emotional to do such things. It's my second one, so I don't know what I'm going to do with you, Sonny. Jeff came to Regis with a very kind spirit, and it was very interesting to see how over the course of his education at Regis, his kind spirit kind of shaped his academic mind, and always wanted to understand with deeper and deeper knowledge, just for the sheer pleasure of understanding, which is very refreshing. And when he came to sit down and pick a topic for his honors thesis, he added a layer, and that was a personal component. He started to think about his personal history and his family, and he decided to talk about the role of healthcare providers in a military environment. And so within those three components, mind, spirit, and body, your personal story, he set to write a great story, one that is going to tell you now. Check.
All right, thank you so much. So before I really launch into this story, as you so accurately put it, you'd be happy Dr. Bush, I got some thank yous. So first and foremost, my family, my fiance for being here. It's not easy to make it from Seattle. My Colorado family, who's graciously been with me through most of this. My advisor, Dr. Franco, who actually kept me sane through a lot of this. Dr. Clayton, the most preeminent war historian in the Midwest, correct? He's checked all my facts, and I think for the most part I'll be safe today. Dr. Bowie, who helped me immensely, especially just reassuring me along the way. All the faculty here, Martin. I couldn't have done this without the book that I wrote like 3.5 chapters on. So thank you so much. And all my friends and family at Regis as well. So with that, I'll begin at the beginning by reading you this amazingly complex and too long title. The Mixed Agency, a historical and ethical examination of the health professional's role in the United States military medical system. And within that is probably every idea that I'm going to touch on today. So the first question that we should ask is, what the heck does that mean? First and foremost, there's a fundamental disconnect for military care providers, medics, nurses, physicians, PT, all of them, that reduces down to dual allegiance. I'm going to extrapolate that a little bit further. What do I mean by dual allegiance? I mean military allegiance as a soldier and patient allegiance as a care provider. And so these are the two things that I'm going to play with. I team them mixed agency. And I'm going to propose to you that there's an inherent conflict of interest based upon the ethical presuppositions behind both structures. I call it mixed agency because it's easier than saying all of that every time I want to talk about it. So for those of you visual learners out there, like myself, what I'm basically saying is that this and this don't always fit together as nicely as we like to believe when we send our boys overseas. Instead of an and or a plus, it's more like a versus. So the next question that all you honor students out there and everybody else should be asking yourself is, why do I care about this? Dr. Franco touched on it a little bit, but I'm going to touch on it more. This is a picture of my father's parents. So my grandparents are right here. That's Grandpa Hassebrock, Grandma Hassebrock. And these are actually Grandpa Hassebrock's two sisters and their husbands, and my grandma's sister and her husband. And you'll notice something in common with all of them. They kind of look like they're in the military, and that's because they were. This is a World War II photo, and these are nurses, and everybody was involved in that war pretty much if we go back on this side of the family. So I have a deep personal connection that even plays down to today. My cousin Greg's been in Afghanistan several times. I've got a best friend who's training to go to wherever we're going to be next, Syria, Libya, North Korea, who knows. And so I have a personal tie to the system that people are placed into. So here's a little clarification in case you want to go over that again. And then the second aspect, for those of you who don't know, which is probably very few, my career is taking me in this direction. So it's interesting to pursue that aspect of the system that I care about as I talk about family history. And so I'm going to pursue it a little more focused. These are the two people again, my Grandma Ruth, my Grandpa Hassebrock. And so my thesis, while ethically and historically involved, a lot of ethical documents talking about care providers, talking about military roles, and also while talking about the history of the system, because I had to know what it was, also contains a very unique component. My grandfather was injured 2 weeks after he stormed Utah Beach in Normandy on D-Day operations. And as he made his circuit in care facilities here, there, all over the place, London, England, France, and then all the way back to the United States, him and my grandmother wrote love letters back and forth. And that's really what they were, is love letters. So I had to sift through a lot of stuff. But the more that I read them, and Dad read these with me, so he actually really enjoyed this part of the thesis. The more I read them, the more I found out my grandfather had absolutely no idea what was going on with him. He was sitting there writing letters saying, I want to go home, I can't wait till we get married. Dr. Clayton was crying. But at the same time, he's also saying, I think the doctor's going to show up today, tomorrow, maybe next week. He said I needed surgery, but he also, another doctor came through and said I didn't, and they don't know if they're going to move me back from the field station to the backwards line. Dad, you got to stop. And so what happened is he has absolutely no idea what's going on with him. And it pissed me off, because it's contrary to everything I've been taught about being a physician, everything I've been practicing here at Regis, everything that I'm going into. And so it's a personal component that's involved with it that I tie in all throughout the whole thing. And so the next thing that we should talk about is, if I'm going to rail against this system, if I'm going to try and bring down the man, we should probably know what the system is.